So I look around the room. I know most of you, but my name's Emily Conley. I'm the bookstore manager here in Somerset. This is Lisa Crow. She's the regional manager for all the Barnes & Nobles with KCTCS. And one of the reasons why she's here today, this is really the first time we've done anything like this with Barnes & Noble and KCTCS. So she's looking to kind of roll this out to all of KCTCS. So what we want to do is really make you guys the pilot group. And the way we train with Barnes & Noble is definitely getting interactive, hands, feels, conversation. So we're not really sure how it'll relate. We're going to kind of go with the flow. We want to take what we know is a strong customer service platform, and then we want to kind of tweak it to higher education. Because a lot of us have the same goals, the same principles, and obviously we have the same clientele. We service faculty, we service students, staff, we service parents, and coworkers. So it was only natural that our two systems can go together. So first of all, just again, WOW customer service, it's defined as welcome, open, and wrap. So basically welcoming the customer, opening the conversation, and then wrapping up that conversation. We've done lots of testing on it. We actually won an award last year for this. So the first activity we want to look at is at the bottom of your first page is think of, and this time you really want to think. So I was thinking this morning, I was like, okay, what is my best customer service experience? And I was having like that writer's block. I'm like, I don't know, I can't think. So really try to think of those two things. Think of what retailer have you went into and had just an awesome customer service experience. And then try to think of the opposite. Where did someone maybe not meet your standards? So we'll take just a little bit here so that then we can dive into it. So really try to think of that. And then name the company. We don't have to necessarily share out loud, but it'll kind of be telling to see. To trigger you. Does anyone want to share one of their experiences?
In Danville, we have a Super America, and the manager there practically knows everybody by name. And if there's more than 2 people at one register, he immediately calls people off the floor to open others. And I mean, he's just right on it, and we go out of our way to go with him now.
So personalization. What are the wows? You got a big wow?
It's a lot easier to forget those wows.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to remember the worst ones.
I know. That's kind of the point. What is, so let's share some not so good experiences.
I deal with MedSource, McDowell MedSource, and I order supplies, and inevitably, the first order they get it wrong. Then they argue with me that I got it wrong, they didn't get it wrong. Then we go through that. Then we finally get the right supplies. And when they bill it wrong. And then I go back and I have to argue with the billing that they billed it wrong. And it's almost like I can guarantee about a month of arguing before I get what I need.
Right. So one of the things that you can take away from this is, you know, we all have consistencies with the companies that maybe don't have a set customer service policy. So even in this small group, I think a lot of us have the same problems or beefs with the companies that didn't have the good customer service. And then some of us had the same things with the customer service companies that have good customer service. So obviously we can pull out Chick-fil-A. We can probably, I'm not sure Walmart is kind of, it really depends. I think they have a very strong customer service program, but it really depends on their people and the location and the environment. Well, and that is always, yes, hiring is a big part of it. You can train customer service all day long, but there is something about someone's personality too that allows them to be a good customer service. In retail, walking the customer, there is a lot of points. So in our WOW, not pointing like this for Barnes & Noble is not like, we can't say, oh, go there. It's literally, let me take you. And here we go. And even with that, you know, if they're looking for a book, you actually pick it up for them and put it in their hands. So there's certain things that all of these places have that we can pick. You know, you may not say, oh, I recognize that, but it's just that whole feeling you get when they do those above and beyond. Oh, and then the last thing on this is, obviously we all know it's like an obvious statement, but when you have a bad experience, you're gonna shout about it, you're gonna tell a bunch of people, Usually, the bad experiences get you 10, connections. You'll tell 10 people, and then if you have a good experience, you usually don't walk away shouting about that or telling other people. The other way we can relate that with higher education is, and Tracy and I deal a lot too with the students who actually get to the point that they're upset. So we don't see the emails that it's like, oh my gosh, Emily and the bookstore are so great. Or, oh my gosh, Tracy just went above and beyond for me. But I see it all the time. I see Tracy doing all kinds of things. I see Holly doing things. I see the people in the front line from where I am. I see all of that. And that's another thing we'll talk about, which is our WOW boards. We'll talk a little bit about how peer motivation is a good way for customer service and how WOW can bring that to us. So we don't ever hear about those. But as soon as someone has a bad experience, they're emailing Dr. Marshall or Dr. Honeycutt, and you can, believe everybody on campus knows about it. So let's see what our next activity is. So the power of WOW. What can WOW do for us? How can we use WOW on our campus to better our campus? And what's in it for our campus? So if I said fill in these 2 blanks, don't write them down just yet. There's lots of things it could mean. But what would be WOW for our campus? What would be the 2 main things?
You're talking about what's in it for our campuses?
Yeah, what can we get out of it?
We're going to have more students.
Exactly. What is that? Recruitment. So, recruitment and retention.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to get the students and we're going to retain them.
Yeah.
And it's all about providing that service. Think about our examples earlier. Do you want to stay with the phone companies when they treat you like that? And I know I'm the same way. Like, I had AT&T and I'm like, well, I'm switching. I'm going to Verizon. And I'll get over there and I'm like, oh, okay, T-Mobile. We just try to figure out somewhere else. Wait, what's this Appalachian Wireless? Okay, let's go there. So, and our students, really these days, they have choices. Especially around here, they have lots of choices. So we want to make sure that, and not only our front line. Think about the student who just walks down the hallway and taps on a faculty store. I do it. I'm on campus. I'm like, I can't find something. I just went over. Joanne's Story was in her office, and she went way above and beyond for me. She took me to this room. She was like trying to find her key, and so it's just things like that, even peer to peer, not just with our students, but obviously our students are why we're all here. So recruitment and retention is what I would define as what is in it for our campus for WOW. So, and again, you all can read through this. I'm not, as far as training goes, I don't usually read verbatim. I don't do PowerPoints. It's more of a discussion. Feel free anytime to jump in and say something. The formula for WOW, again, is welcome, open, and wrap. So does anyone want to think about, or just state, what would be an example of WOW? So, JR, or Patrick, if I walked in to your office, or someone, if you're training your staff at financial aid, what would be the example you would do for the 3 steps of welcome?
So basically greet them when they come in, and then ask how we can help you. And then when they're leaving, basically.
What else can I?
Yeah. What else can I help you with?
So yeah, it's just basically welcome. Hey, how are you? Eye contact. So it's not just, you don't have to have a verbal. Sometimes you're with somebody else. It's just a literal as long as you make an eye contact, they know, okay, she's going to be with me. It's not necessarily you have to assist them right when you see them, but at least letting them know that you acknowledge them, that you see them, that you'll be with them, and that the smile, all of that.
I'll give you another one. For instance, I always, when I see somebody, I smile at them. That's just what I do. And I was walking along between the buildings, and I smiled at this, new student. She was walking up, and she says, "Do you work here?" And I said, "Sure, I do." She says, "Well, can you help me? Can you show me where this is?" I went, "Sure, I can." And I explained to her, and we went over and everything. She says, "Oh, thank you so much." And just that little thing, just being willing to say hi, smile. They feel like they can approach you, and then answer their questions.
That's exactly what I was going to say. What I pointed out about her experience was approachable. She made herself approachable. Just that smile. Just, you don't even necessarily have to do a big cheese. You can look at somebody, you can walk by somebody and if you're like this, Or, you don't necessarily have to respond. You can just be like, or they know they can come up to you, but if you're walking by like, or if you're in a hurry, those types of things, they can sense that. They can sense your body language, your the way you're presenting yourself on campus, just on a trip on campus. You're not even in your office. You're just walking down the sidewalk. That's a very good example. Approachable is a huge thing, I think, for us here on campus. Think about all that you have to do. Think about what's on your plate, all the stuff that you have to do, and that's one of the things that with Barnes & Noble that we learned early on in our management careers. Is you can have a stack this big, but it's the customer. I mean, that's why I'm there. That's why we're making money. That's what we're doing. That's what keeps us a successful company, is that we drop whatever, whether it's a deadline. And I'm sure, I think about the example of, oh my gosh, we've got a meeting with or the leadership meeting, or, think about having to go somewhere and do a presentation on campus, Dr. Marshall, Dr. Honeycutt, but then a student walks in, especially for the people who are leaders in their areas. I mean, a lot of times you may have an important meeting or a presentation, and when that student comes in and your line can't help them, and I'm sure that the other people in the meeting that you're going to would be completely understanding as to why you're either late or, late. So just that, it's hard for us sometimes to think about, oh, I can push this off to help that customer. But, a couple of years ago, we, again, just pulling an experience where students were waiting in the wrong line. So they waited, they got all the way to the front to think that they didn't really need to be doing that, they needed to go somewhere else. So like in your example, if the second student walked in, one of the things you could do is say, well, what was it you're needing? Figure out, maybe someone else can help them, and you can point them, instead of making them come back. If she, obviously if she needed advising or if she was there for an appointment with you, it would have to be you, she would have to come back. But you could also just say, what did you need? I do that a lot on the phone. When I'm with a customer and I answer the phone, I'm like, hello, thank you. I don't answer the phone immediately and say, thank you for calling the bookstore, can you please hold? That's you don't want to do that. What if you put them on hold for a long period of time and all they really needed to know is, are you open today? But, you always want to kind of figure out what they want first, and then, either say, well, you can wait right there if you want to wait, or you can come back at a certain time. But figuring out what is it that they want first is really important, so they don't have to do that extra week. And I think in financial aid, we had ambassadors go around that year that we figured that out and say, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Oh, you don't need to be here. You need to be over here, which that first day is a challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, because there's just students everywhere, and none seem to know where to go. So, but it's good we have that table now, so they kind of send them in the direction that they need. And they don't know. I mean, I work a lot during Rush. I guess I work a lot with Patrick and Tracy, but Patrick especially, they don't know what they're asking for. I mean, they don't know what they need. They're like, I don't know. I'm like, what do you need? I don't know. So you have to, okay, have you registered for classes? I mean, that's sad, but you have to literally, they're in the bookstore and you have to say, have you registered for classes? And I will, no lie, promise you, I did have a student this year say no. They were in the bookstore to get their books, had not registered for classes. I kind of thought, well, I chalked it up to, well, they wanted to use their book voucher. They just wanted to come and chalk, maybe. I don't know. Well, before I can get your books, I need to know it. But yes, I mean, that is so, and it's not, it's not just this campus, it's every campus, it's every college, it's every university. And the better we are at recognizing it and then being able to assist it, take them to the next place. Then once they're there, or give them a checklist, hey, you're done with this, you need to go to financial aid. Once that's done, then you need to go to the bookstore, make sure you have da-da-da. So, yeah, and at any step of their experience, they can, get the next level. That at the first stop, they can say you need to go here, here, and here. Or at the second level, they can just make sure, are you sure you know where you're going next, and move on. So the next page is basically our WOW formula. And it does have some blanks for you to fill in. It's wow the customer, open the conversation, and then wrap up the conversation. So again, just to define those, a very typical wow would be, hi, how are you doing today? What can I help you with? That's the welcome. Then in the open, it is the probing. It's trying to figure out what are their needs. They may come in with one need or think this is their need, but after having a conversation, opening the conversation, what was the other word we thought that for that, Polly? It was really good. It was an open, engage. Get them engaged. That was it. Get them engaged in the conversation. Like, again, going off of what Tracy's saying, sometimes you can walk by a student who looks like they got it together and you say hello and they're like, hey, wait a minute. Where's this? So get them engaged in the conversation. And then wrapping it up is just simply, is there anything else I can help you with? That's one of the things with WOW and Barnes & Noble, just like with Chick-fil-A, that we're almost required to do as employees of Barnes & Noble. If we get secret service shops, if we get secret phone calls, or now we have a new method of customer service, which is live customer service. Our new mobile app and our website has a feedback button, so they are probed to give us immediate feedback, which will then ding to my email to let me know a customer's experience the moment it happens, if they're either A, disgruntled, or B, happy. I mean, hopefully that's what we're looking for, but again, it'll be looking at those points of the closing. What else? Is there anything else I can help you with? So like Chick-fil-A, my pleasure. Barnes & Noble, either it's on the phone or in person, we should be saying, is there anything else I can help you with? So I think that's a good thing that can definitely be used on campus. It's just a way to continue that pleasure experience for the students. So let's play a little game. Y'all like games? Write down an extreme request. Okay? One of the things that's a challenge for us every day as a customer service representative is trying to figure out how to help the customer without saying no. So how do you solve someone's question if you really can't? Is there another way you can say it? Is there something else you can say to them? Or is there a way that you can say it without saying no? And without being rude about it? I've been with Barnes & Noble for 15 years. I started as a freshman at EKU. I was walking down the sidewalk. I saw a now hiring sign, and I was like, I'll take some extra money. So I started there. I was recruited into a management training program. From there, I think I have held every single position up to my position that the company's had. So I'm a cashier, bookstore, textbook employee, bookstore manager, or textbook manager, assistant store manager. So I went through all the general merchandise. I've done it all. And so throughout that, you learn these different types of ways to give them what they need, but not necessarily say no. And I've had my fair share of very, very upset employees and our students in 15 years. From a student's perspective, so my peers, like students coming in that I've got class with, yelling at me, all the way till now where I'm helping a freshman who's upset as well. So we do learn over the years how to tell them no, or maybe not be able to give them what they need, but in a very pleasant way. And sometimes they come in demanding. They're not going to walk out happy unless you give them all their money back and then something free. And then I've had situations where I didn't do any of that, and they actually walked out happier than they walked in. A lot of times I will give in and give them whatever they want, but there are times that I'm able to not have to do that. And they walk out just as happy as if I did. So let's think about what it is that you were given, and who wants to share, read off their card. Yes.
Okay, I'll go first. Like I says, can you give me a discount on my books? I had it for.
What did it say?
Amazon has it.
Oh, who did
that?
I'll tell you what, yes I can. I can match Amazon.
Do you have?
We do, we match Amazon, but not the marketplace. Amazon has Amazon, and then they've got seller to seller. I can't, Johnny down the street, I can't match him if he wants to sell a book for 50 cents. But I can match Amazon's retail, yeah. I mean, obviously there is a level of customer service on a college campus. That is the face of the college. but there's also the accountability factor for the student to earn their grades. And so I think that goes more academic. Obviously, we're never going to be able to give them an A. They have to earn it.
And I guess also a point to the extremes are when someone doesn't get the answer they want or like,
Yes.
they will continue until they might find either a weak link or
Yes.
something that gives them what they're looking for.
Right.
Not when it's what they need necessarily.
Right. A lot of times we do deal with the freshman students, the ones that just really are lost. Like you would, like half of you wants to say, what are you doing? But then the other half, we have to be compassionate, empathy. So if you turn the page and you look at all the color blocks, those are all the skills that we can have on the front line and or anyone dealing with customer service. And really using those to help us. So like active listening. Are we listening to the customer or are we just immediately saying, no, we can't do that, which obviously we don't want to say no. So for an example, like someone who put down they want a massage therapist on campus. Without saying no, I could say something like, I might not be able to get you a massage therapist on campus, but maybe what else could we do?
PTA does massages.
Oh, look there. But maybe you can reach out to the PTA department and see what they have. So you're not necessarily using the negatives, but you're thinking of what else can you do with that. Or like a steak sandwich. I want a steak crudo. We don't use don't. So how do we say that? So if you want steak, maybe you should try the hamburger steak here at the food court or at the, what's that called? Cafeteria. Yeah. So maybe you should try that. So thinking of a way to say no without using the negatives, the can't, the no's, the I don't, all of those things, if we are perceptive of those trigger words, then that could just be another level of taking us to the next level of customer service. And then along with that is some of these, we've only got 5 more minutes, so we'll pick one of these exercises here. So the part of this is recognizing these skills within yourself, okay? So these are all the skills of someone with customer service, or the tools or skills or tools or whatever you can use as a customer service agent. So there's 2 exercises. The first one is reading the points and deciding which one of these skills represents that point, right? But I like the next one. So flip to the back page with this one at the top. Just to kind of get you thinking. If you had to rank yourself as a customer service agent, someone who deals with and sees, and be honest, we're not going to share this one, we're not going to add them up, we're not going to total them. This is just a self-aware way to grade yourself. How do you rank on this? And take a little bit, we'll take 2 minutes, because we got 7 minutes left. We'll take 2 on this and then we'll wrap it up. So who all would grade yourself as a 4 with the active listening? Raise your hand if you don't have to call yourself out, but if you really think you're a 4. No? Attentiveness? Clear communicator? Are we communicating clearly? You see, and that's the other thing. I could be saying something one way, and it may be slang term for me. It may be something that, like, I'm usually talking to my staff about, and we're totally over the student's head. And I've done that before. I'm like, da-da-da-da, you got ISBN, and, you know, I don't know. And they're looking at me like, huh? You know? What about this package component? Did you get that? I don't know. You know, so you have to kind of put it into their terms. Persuasive speaker. So one of the things that we also have to do is be able to kind of convince them, you know, that you are knowledgeable in your area and that you're confident. I think confidence is another one on here. It is. Positive language. So that's the whole don't use can't, don't use can't, don't use don't use the negatives, try to pull out the positives of, of course I can. Or good body language. If you're like, Really? That says a whole lot more than what you think, as opposed to just simply, if you're sitting at your desk, just simply leaning forward and saying, what is it? That whole leaning forward and looking forward gives them that impression that you're really into whatever it is they're saying. Human psychology, I think that's a big one for everyone, is knowing, not necessarily a learning disability or whatever, but what is your customer's personality? You can look at someone right away and tell if you're going to have to speak a certain way to them just based on whatever you've read about their personality. Patient, obviously, empathetic. I think that the empathy is what's hard. That's what we lose so much. When you deal with the same, even me, 3 years ago, when I first came to Somerset and London, there were certain things that people would say, and I'd be like, oh yeah, yes I can do it, yes I can. And then I hear it over and over and over again. I'm like, really? That can't be true. I can't hear this story, the same story over and over and over again. So then that causes me to not have the empathy for the third and fourth and fifth person that I've heard that same story from. But it's not necessarily true that they don't, and it's not true for them, but I've lost my empathy for that situation. So I think that's a big thing that we need to self-recognize, is our empathy. Time management, of course, that always helps us. We're not feeling as stressed. Being flexible. One of the biggest, I think, I don't want to talk controversies, but one of the biggest up for debate is, do we break the policy or do we stick to the policy? And I think that's a huge thing with higher education. I think that's one of the things we want to dig deeper in as a topic point going further. We've not really got to touch on it much today. If it's a policy, I got to stick to it, as opposed to, can we bend it a little bit just to try to help that student without totally opening the floodgates? What is that? How do we define that as a college? How do we say no to this person but let this person? So, but these things I think are definitely important. Leadership skills, when others see you doing it, that causes them to want to do it. Self-motivation, same thing. The more you do it, if you wow this customer, you want to wow the next one even more. We take some pride in that when we see a student just happy. When we know that they weren't going to be happy and then you were able to change them, I always take pride in that. I think, oh my gosh, how did we do that? And usually it's a team effort. Like the other day, there was 3 of us that dealt with one girl. So it's definitely a team effort. Self-motivation, decision-making, being able to make that decision. Do we arm people with the ability to make an executive decision? Let me take care of that for you. Who has that authority? And if they don't have it, can they get them to someone who does have the authority to make the decision? Teamwork and a sense of humor. I think that's always great as the last one. Again, the back page, you can really read through that one. I got one more thing to introduce, and it is called the WOW board. Okay, so one thing is peer motivation, and this is a huge initiative with Barnes & Noble. We all have a WOW board in our back room, and we have WOW cards, blank ones. Okay, so anytime you see your coworkers wowing a student, whatever it may be, you can take a couple and pass it around and keep it with you. And I'll put some of these on the other side. Just take a stack and pass it around. These WOW boards, I'm going to try to put them in, definitely there's a break room over in Tracy's area.
Yeah.
I'm going to get one in the break room at Me's for the cash people. And I don't want it out for students to see, but in break rooms across campus, we're going to have these WOW boards. So anytime you see somebody else, call them out. So Holly had a student who had an issue. She went way above and beyond, walked him into my office, was like, hey, explain the story. We were able to take care of her. And then I put on here, go Holly. And then when you pass by them, you can see other people's WOW situations. What did they do? And then you can try to beat them. Of course, it's recognition of someone else. You can always wow yourself. Self-motivation is not a bad thing.
I want to say something real quick.
Yes.
As part of this, I think it's so important for everybody, if you're seeing somebody, whether it's in your department or somebody else's department, to give them a pat on the back, say thank you. There's a particular faculty member that I can think of right off the top of my head. She copies me on emails quite often when somebody did admissions or records or somebody has gone beyond. They go beyond on a daily basis, but you don't hear of all the good things. You always hear, obviously, the complaints. So she makes an effort when somebody goes beyond to send an email to that student to copy their supervisors on it, so that just saying thank you. And I think that means a lot, because everybody knows how crazy this month, it's really crazy all the time, and it's just nice that people do see the extra effort that people do and say thank you.
Well, everybody
That's
likes to be
important.
recognized.
It is.
Even, I mean, we all may say that we don't, like, oh, you know, no big deal. But really, deep down inside, everybody likes to be recognized for a job well done. And no matter who you are, there's always finding good things about somebody, and it makes people do better. You know, when you recognize them for that.